I've done nothing wrong, officer. I'm just a simple shopkeeper from Crompton, here on holidays with my family.
Put down the knife.
It's not a knife.
That's a knife.
Shit.
Just kids having fun.
G'day there, my name's Chris.
My name's Nathan.
And this is CinemaBiosis, the show where we closely examine a film and its strange connections to other media. And today, we're discussing the Aussie slasher horror film, Cut.
Cut! Cut it! Cut!
From the year 2000, directed by Kimball Rendell, who is most known for, well, Cut, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they have directed other things, I must say. They actually directed one of your favourite Aussie films ever, Nathan.
What the hell would that be?
Oh, we saw it in cinema.
What the hell? Did we? What are we talking about?
Bait, mate.
Oh, Bait. Oh my god, that shark film. They direct that.
The only film I've ever fallen asleep to in cinema.
That was terrible.
Look, even though we're a little hard on Bait, I mean, I'm pretty open to this movie. I've only seen it once before we rewatched it for this review, and that was like decades ago.
Yeah, no, I remember getting it on VHS, and I swear there was a short film before it. And I remember people always talking about Cut, a horror movie you got that came with 2 films on the actual VHS. And that's the only reason why I remember it.
Oh, you fake sincerity so well.
It's a secret of good acting, mate.
Yeah.
But on a rewatch, I had a very particular thought, and I don't know if this same thought came into your head, Nathan, but have you seen the movie Scream?
Yeah.
Do you think the creators of Cut may have seen Scream?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility.
Do you think someone's trying to duplicate Woodsboro?
It looks like it.
I think you have a copycat on your hands, Chief.
Now, obviously Scream didn't invent the meta-horror film, you know, a horror film that references the genre knowingly. Wes Craven, the director of Scream, made a film called New Nightmare from 1994, which was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie about the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And you also have Peeping Tom from 1960, which features a killer filmmaker.
And knew I was going to kill them. I made them watch their own deaths.
So, I mean, it didn't invent the idea, and there's probably some other examples I'm not mentioning, but Scream certainly popularised the idea of a meta-horror film.
Well, was Scream before Cut?
Yeah, man, Scream was 1996.
Really? Is that long ago? Wow, feeling old.
Behold, the ravages of age.
So it was 4 years before Cut came out.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, so it's basically Aussie Scream.
Yeah, in some ways, but there are some noticeable differences. Cut is certainly a horror film about horror films, but maybe more directly than even the first Scream, because the plot of Cut centres on the production of an Australian horror flick from 1985 called Hot Blooded. Which is honestly a terrible title for a horror film, in my opinion, because it sounds more like a porno.
It does too.
I actually thought the best name for it would be Now You Die, because that's everywhere in the movie.
That was actually pretty cool, written in the steam on the glass, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's what the killer inside the movie within a movie is always saying to his victims.
Hello?
Now you die. So how does the story of Hot Blooded start, Nathan? Or at least, how does it start for us as the viewers watching the film?
Our story starts with a very yellow house and a yellow kitchen, and a lot of the colour yellow.
Yo, listen up, here's the story about a
yellow
guy that lives in a
yellow
world, and all day and all night, and everything he sees is just
yellow.
Like him, inside and outside.
Yeah, and things aren't going great on production, you know, beyond just everything being yellow.
Yo, listen up.
The director, played by Kylie Minogue, is pretty angry about things going wrong, and she's actually killed by an irate actor.
It's hard to scream without a tongue.
In many ways, this opening mirrors elements of Scream with its Drew Barrymore opening because, you know, this is the big star that's killed very early on. And I guess Kylie Minogue was a pretty big movie star at this point. I mean, what was her huge role before this?
It's Street Fighter.
Yeah, a tour de force performance.
CQ, this is Guy.
Cammy here. Colonel, are you all right?
I'm okay. I'm just half dead.
And Bison?
All dead.
Perhaps ironically, the actor that cracks it and kills her is actually the actor playing the killer in the film, Scarman, who uses an interesting, if ineffective, weapon.
Yeah, a set of shears with a really long blade on it for some reason.
It's only a pair of garden shears, simply modified so I can do interesting things like cut off heads.
So apparently the production team of Cut spent ages designing those shears. They consulted heaps of archival documents, they did a bunch of research about the history of shears, all to try and come up with the most impressive and sinister design. And it's kind of like, really? That's what you settled on?
Why shears? Like, you could have had a knife, just as effective.
I mean, they have shears in The Burning, and that works well, but they're like big shears.
Yeah.
They're not like the little pruning shears that I use in my like little tiny garden out front. But yeah, Hot Blooded is unfinished after the murder, and people begin to speculate that perhaps the movie is cursed, because whenever anybody tries to finish the film, they end up dying.
A few years back, a director, a young kid out of video clips, did just that. The producer hired him to complete Hot Blooded. What happened next is totally bizarre. The kid was butchered, but the police never found the killer.
I don't know about you, Nathan, but if I were a cop investigating that theatre death, I would have my suspect in the projectionist. Even if he didn't do it, I'd arrest him, because that guy should not be on the streets.
Yeah, he's a freaking weirdo. I'm pretty sure he'd be my number one suspect if he's the only one alive in the cinema. I'd be like, yeah, he did it.
Funny thing, you know, I've seen so many murders on the screen. You see the real thing, hey, it's no big deal. You get these gender-specific arseholes that think that screen violence is going to turn us all into mass murderers. Well, it's crap. I've seen hundreds of murders. I've seen thousands of murders.
But essentially, the plot of Cut is pretty simple. A bunch of film students decide to finish Hot Blooded, and they hire the original actress from the film, who's played by Molly Ringwald of 80s teen film fame. But this time, she'll play her own mother, who is the last person to be killed in the original script for Hot Blooded. But of course, people start to be murdered around the set. Now, this is an obvious setup for a slasher film, you know, like maybe the killer is the film lecturer who warns them not to continue making Hot Blooded, or maybe it's the original director who's not really dead.
Well, then they do the reveal that the director that's trying to finish the film, she's the daughter of the original director who got killed, Kylie Minogue.
That was her voice. Did you hear her voice?
So I'm like, maybe she's doing it.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, is she doing it? And then they're like, oh no, this supernatural guy. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, obvious spoilers here. The killer of the film is revealed to literally be Scarman from Hot Blooded. Not the actor who played him, but rather a supernatural entity embodying the negative spirit of the killer, I guess, or something like that.
He's the sum total of all the creative energy that's gone into the film.
Believe me, there was no creative energy that went into that piece of shit.
I've got the keys, come on.
This is where the movie gets a bit frustrating for me, honestly, because it sets itself up as a bit of a murder mystery with some red herrings and stuff.
But then it becomes more of a supernatural thing towards the end, almost to like a Freddy Krueger sort of thing, where the guy's saying funny one-liners and stuff.
I'm something special, huh?
Yeah, and it starts to get a bit confusing around what this otherworldly entity even is. Like, is it the ghost of the original guy who killed the director because, you know, he
when
died?
He got killed in 1985, like, he gets stabbed with the shears. It's like an electrical charge on the mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, they'll explain he had like a squib in there or something that, you know, was connected to something. No.
Magic.
No.
Sheer magic.
But apparently, yeah, sheer magic. Yeah. So yeah, obviously there is this meta quality going on, but I would argue it's really not as clever as the creators think, because it talks about horror in the abstract.
Yeah.
But then it just goes and does the tropes anyhow. Like, they have a scene parodying the horny teen trope. You know, when they're listing all the, like, oh, she's with him, he's with her.
Porking Jim.
Jules and Jim? Are you
Yes,
serious?
yes.
I thought Jim was porking Hester.
Hester's a dyke, you dork.
But then we just get a cliche scene later with horny teens being murdered.
Bobby.
What? Bobby? Come on.
Which kind of makes sense because the characters are pretty bog standard archetypes, including your characters with dickheaditis, you know, that condition that means you go around jump scaring people as if you're in a movie that's dragging a bit and needs a jump scare.
Scare you?
And it's not like they're particularly likable characters for the most part either, because there's like the prank they pull near the beginning of the movie when they're all in the cinema watching the cut of Hot Blooded.
Yeah, and then they all pretend to be dead, like they've been killed while they're watching the...
Yeah. It's like, that's not even a prank. That's just causing trauma for the sake of causing trauma.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a bit much.
I will say, though, the best part of that is that total Aussie reaction.
You're all a bunch of fuckwits.
In fact, the blunt Aussiness is honestly what brings a lot of the humour to the film for me. Just the way that people react to things in such an Australian fashion is hilarious.
And that guy turns to the chick and goes, oh, I've always thought you were beautiful.
You know, Jules, I've never said this before, but I've always found you very attractive.
Oh, fuck off!
Okay.
I laugh so hard.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. But let's be honest, for the most part, the characters are just there for fodder. They're just there to be killed.
Yeah, but I will give the movie this. A lot of the kills are pretty well done. I mean, the decapitation scene looked awesome.
Some of them are a bit ridiculous, like when he stabs someone with a cleaver, like with the blunt end.
Yeah.
Nice shot!
So in true CinemaBiosis fashion, we have some interesting trivia here about the production of the film. You may have noticed, Nath, that the aesthetic of Cut is quite interesting. There's lots of montages and little editing tricks going on, almost like a music video.
Yeah.
Well, there's a pretty strong connection to the Australian music industry with this film. The director, Kimball Rendell, was a musician and was even in the Hoodoo Gurus for a bit, which, you know, maybe our non-Australian viewers might not know the Hoodoo Gurus, but they're incredibly popular in Australia. They're like one of our quintessential pub rock bands.
God, what were their hits?
And to strengthen this music industry connection, this film was one of the first to be distributed and partially produced by Mushroom Pictures, which was a film production arm of Mushroom Records, the biggest independent record label in Oz for years. And they locally distributed heaps of Aussie artists, but also international acts like Nelly Furtado and Muse. And they also distributed perhaps our biggest pop singer ever. Who might that be, Nathan?
Kylie Minogue.
I was actually going to say Daddy Minogue, her sister, as a joke. So Mushroom Records would have a massive back catalogue of music that could be used in Mushroom Pictures.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that explains the music then.
Yeah. There's a lot of non-soundtrack music going on throughout Cut, and it makes sense because it means you can get a pretty damn solid tie-in CD that you can sell to fans of the movie. And you can kind of produce that CD at a limited cost because you're not paying so much for licensing and things like that. Weirdly, I actually own the CD, and it's in really good condition. I bought it for $2 from a local record store. I also got another CD that day, and I remember this vividly. And you know what? It's so bizarre, but that other CD is actually Street Fighter. What are the odds? It's my secret kind of Kylie Minogue film soundtrack collection or something like that.
That's your hidden shame.
No, I'm sure she'd be suitably impressed.
He makes me a better person, I think, and he's kind and inspiring, and I really can't say anymore because I get myself into a corner. He's great. He's absolutely great.
This hybridized approach to marketing through your own movies is nothing new. It's been done for years and years, and perhaps the most infamous company to do it is Sony Pictures, who always feature, Sony laptops, Sony phones, all of that kind of stuff in their movies. We're not going to go into it too much. There's a really great review of Jack and Jill, which is a Sony-produced film by Red Letter Media that breaks down this idea a little bit more. I'll chuck a link in the description below. Mushroom Records didn't have the opportunity to push this hybridized approach for long though, because they were actually consumed by another company and they became part of that company. Mushroom Pictures still exists though, and they're still putting out some good stuff. I mean, perhaps most notably, they released Wolf Creek.
Oh, really?
Which is probably the most popular horror film to ever come out of Australia. I mean, at least on an international level. It shouldn't be the best horror film to come out of Australia because it's not. The best horror film is easily Undead.
Yeah, Undead is amazing.
All right, Nath, would you suggest Cut to our valued viewers?
Actually, yeah, I would. It was actually a fun movie to watch. Like, don't expect anything amazing out of it, but it's a fun little slasher.
Yeah, I would recommend it as well. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I feel like it's maybe one redraft or tweak away from being like a genuinely great film. Like, it almost would work better if it was more Giallo-inspired. So, think something like Argento's Opera, where there's like a troubled production and all of this mysterious kind of crime and murder is happening around the production. But that being said, it's still really good for a little fright flick. Perfect for the Halloween season.
Yeah.
I would just suggest, if you're not Australian, to have your browser open on your phone or your computer so you can make sense of some of the ridiculous slang that's used, because I'm honestly shocked it's considered English most of the time and I speak it.
You are as cunning as a dunny rat. Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. He told me you two are having a blue.
Little ankle biter.
Yeah, well, she's a woman. Give her these. You'll be right as rain.
Nah, we're cactus.
Pig's ass. You and Amy are dinky die.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. We regularly upload videos about cult cinema, B-grade films, and pure trash. If you have a suggestion for a movie we should cover, make sure to leave it in the comments section below. Until next time, stay safe and stay weird.